The subway has always been part of my nightly routine. I take the same train, at the same time, after the same shift, and I've never once felt unsafe. Most nights, the train is half empty, just tired workers heading home. But that particular night, everything felt different the moment I stepped into the car. There were only a few people, a sleeping man in work boots, an older woman reading, and a guy sitting directly across from where I usually sat. I didn't notice him at first. I was exhausted, eyes glued to my phone. But after a few minutes, I felt something, a strange heaviness, like someone was staring. When I finally looked up, the man was sitting forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on me. Not a casual glance, not a curious look. It was too intense, too studying. His eyes didn't blink. His expression didn't change. It felt like he was reading me, memorizing me. I looked away quickly, pretending to be absorbed in my phone, but I could still feel his gaze burning into the side of my face. When I glanced up again, he was even closer, still sitting, but shifted one seat down, angling himself directly toward me. No sound, no movement I had noticed, just suddenly there. I tried to ignore him, pretending I didn't see what he was doing. I even moved to another row, thinking maybe I was misreading the situation. But within 2 stops, he moved again. Same posture, same stare, always positioned perfectly to watch me. I felt my throat tighten, my heart starting to beat faster. When we reached my station, I didn't wait for the doors to fully open. I slipped past him, refusing to make eye contact, and darted onto the platform. I heard footsteps behind me, slow, deliberate, matching my pace. I sped up. The footsteps sped up. I broke into a run, rushing up the steps, my breath turning sharp. At the top, I stopped and turned around, and there he was, standing at the bottom of the stairs, half in shadow, looking up at me with that same unnerving stare. But this time, he was holding something in his hand, a piece of paper. My name was written on it, my full name, in neat handwriting. I froze, unable to process how he could possibly know who I was. I backed away slowly, and in the blink of an eye, he was gone. I didn't hear him move, didn't hear footsteps. 1 second he was there, the next he had vanished like a shadow swallowed by the dark. I ran out of the station, panic tightening my chest, glancing around wildly for any sign of him. I didn't see him again that night, but something about that encounter lingered. Even now, whenever I ride the subway, I feel a pair of eyes watching me. Sometimes I swear I see him reflected in the train window behind me, even when I know there's no one there. And I still don't know how he knew my name. Hiking alone has always felt peaceful to me. A way to escape the noise, breathe fresh air, and clear my mind. I've hiked dozens of trails, and I've never once felt frightened. Until that evening, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky with oranges and deep reds, and I was halfway through my trail when I noticed him. A man standing perfectly still on the path ahead, hood pulled low, hands in his pockets, head tilted slightly, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. At first, I thought maybe he was just taking a break or checking his map, so I called out a polite, "Hey, excuse me," hoping to pass by. He didn't move, didn't answer, didn't even acknowledge me. His stillness was unnatural, like he was frozen in place. I walked off the trail a bit, giving him a wide berth, but when I turned around to make sure I'd passed him, he had turned to face me. Even though I never saw him move, his hood hid his face completely, and the silence around us grew thick, heavy. I walked faster, heart beginning to pick up speed. After another turn in the trail, I glanced back again, and he was following me. Slow, steady, never rushing, but always maintaining the same distance. Every time I sped up, he sped up just enough to keep pace. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe he was hiking the same route, but deep down, my instincts screamed that this wasn't normal. When twilight faded into full darkness, the woods became disorienting. The quiet felt wrong, too empty. Each rustle of leaves, each snap of a twig made me jump. I tried taking a different path, one that should have led back toward the road, but no matter which turn I took, I felt his presence. Not close enough to see clearly, but close enough that I could hear faint footsteps behind me. Worse, sometimes it sounded like his footsteps came from ahead, as if he had somehow gotten in front of me without passing me. I told myself I was imagining it, but fear gnawed at my brain, pushing me faster. When I finally reached a clearing near a campsite, I sprinted toward a group of people sitting around a fire. I must have looked terrified, because they jumped to their feet immediately. I tried explaining the situation, but my voice trembled so badly that I barely made sense. One of them went to check the trail for the man. He wasn't there, not anywhere, but the ground was covered in footprints. Not deep, not heavy, just faint impressions of someone who moved lightly, almost silently. More than one camper told me the prints looked fresh, too fresh. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every crackle of firewood, every whisper of the wind made my skin prickle. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hooded figure standing just beyond the tree line, waiting for me to step back into the woods. I haven't hiked alone since then. Sometimes, though, when I walk near wooded areas, I swear I see a hooded silhouette just at the edge of the trees, never close enough to make out, but always there, watching. It was around 2 a.m. when I stopped at the gas station. I had been driving for hours on a nearly empty highway, fighting exhaustion, and when my tank hit nearly empty, I knew I had no choice but to pull over. The gas station was old, dimly lit, the kind of place you stop only when you have no other options. As I stepped out of my car, I saw him, a man leaning against the side of the building, half hidden in the shadows. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could feel his eyes on me. Something about the way he stood, perfectly still, made the hairs on my arms rise. I tried to ignore him and focused on pumping gas. But every few seconds, I'd glance over and see that he hadn't moved, not even a little. When I went inside to buy a drink and snacks, I kept checking over my shoulder. The store attendant barely looked up, clearly used to strange late-night customers. When I stepped back outside, the man was gone. Relief washed over me, and I headed toward my car, until I saw movement inside the back seat. My heart froze. A shadow shifted. Someone was sitting inside. I dropped everything, stumbled backward, and the car door opened slowly. The same man stepped out, smiling faintly, holding a small folded piece of paper. He said nothing, didn't try to grab me, just stood there, smiling with a strange stillness that made me nauseous. He held out the paper to me, but I didn't reach for it. When I backed up toward the store, my voice barely coming out, the man just placed the paper on the roof of my car, tapped it once, and walked off into the darkness behind the gas station. No car, no footsteps, no sound, nothing. I ran inside and shouted for the attendant to call the police. When we stepped back out together, the man was gone. Completely. The police arrived 20 minutes later, searched the area, and found nothing. No footprints, no signs of anyone leaving. The officer asked to see the paper, so I unfolded it. One sentence was written on it. "You shouldn't be driving alone tonight." That was all. No threat, no signature. But it chilled me to my core, because it felt less like a warning, and more like he knew something I didn't. I finished my drive with every light on in the car, constantly checking my mirrors. And to this day, whenever I stop at a gas station late at night, I still look twice into the back seat before opening the door. Terrified, I'll see him sitting there again, smiling silently, waiting for me.